Nigerian heavyweight prospect Efe Ajagba had no problem at all in dispatching of American heavyweight veteran Amir Mansour, who quit on his stool after 2 rounds. Ajagba was assertive from the opening bell. He showed good poise, nice punch selection, accuracy, and Mansour was really no match for him at all. To be fair, Mansour didn't really come to fight. He came to survive, pick up a paycheck, and that's exactly what he did. And once he felt like he'd earned his keep, he called it a day and didn't come out for the 3rd round. Now, it is kind of sad, the story of Mansour, but he must be lamenting the fact that he threw away about 10 years of his boxing career because he got caught up in some criminal activity, which resulted in a 10-year stint in prison. So his best years were spent incarcerated. But even when he came back in his late 30s, Amir Mansour still had some fire in his belly. And you guys might remember the fights that he had against other big heavyweights like Dominic Breazeale and Gerald Washington. But here against the Ajagba, all that fire was gone. Same thing with when Mansour fought Filip Hrgović a while ago. No fire in his belly at all, just turned up to survive, pick up a paycheck, and that's what happened. But it's not about him anyway. It's about Efe Ajagba, who a lot of boxing fans are speaking very highly of. They're likening him to Deontay Wilder in a sense that he's tall and lanky and can punch, but they're saying that he's not wild like Wilder. His technique is a lot more correct. His punches are a lot more accurate, is what people are saying. Now, I've done some digging into Ajagba's background as much as I can, and as is often the case with a lot of African athletes, I'm being told by some people who are Nigerians that Ajagba isn't really 24 years old. That's not his real age, and he's actually closer to 30. Who knows when it comes to that, but it wouldn't surprise me, obviously. But one area of his background that I've been trying to dig into is his amateur background, because he was at the Rio Olympics, the very same Olympics in which Tony Yoka won gold and Britain's Joe Joyce won a silver. Interestingly, Ajagba lost in the quarterfinals to Ivan Ditchko, 0-3. Now, Ivan Ditchko is a heavyweight prospect himself right now. But in that very same Olympics, Ivan Ditchko lost to, you guessed it, Joe Joyce. Ivan Ditchko also lost in the previous Olympics to Anthony Joshua. Yes, that's one of the fights in the London Olympics that Anthony Joshua actually legitimately won. So I'm just putting it in context here. Ivan Ditchko beat Ajagba, but lost to AJ and lost to Joe Joyce. So Ajagba was a decent level. This is how it appears to me. He was a decent level amateur, but he wasn't an elite amateur. He wasn't one of the top super heavyweights out there. Okay. Now, that doesn't mean he can't be an elite professional, because when you only have 3 rounds to get it done, that doesn't suit every fighter. Some fighters need more time than that to get it done. Perhaps that's going to be the case with Ajagba. As I say, and as they say, he's a tall guy, 6'5", very long reach at 85. It used to actually be listed as longer than this. I think there was at one point on BoxRec it said his reach was something like 87 or 88, but now they've cut it down to 85. Perhaps that's more accurate. He's got a very long reach anyway. Still a long way to go with Ajagba. Yes, he's a heavyweight with power, and that always impresses people. When you're not really taking shots and you're intimidating guys and knocking them out. But Ajagba hasn't fought anybody with a pulse yet, anybody who's actually coming to win. And we need to see him in fights like that before we know what we really have with him. Does he have a chin? Does he have a heart? Because trust me, I've seen countless heavyweights over the decades who looked impressive, who had punching power, who looked very spectacular. But when they actually got hit on the chin, when they actually got in a situation where an opponent came to win, they fell apart. And actually, one of the most poignant examples of this was Shannon Briggs. A lot of you may not realize that Shannon Briggs was heavily hyped early on in his professional career. Very, very heavily hyped. He was trained by Teddy Atlas. He was from New York. He was brash, and he had tremendous athletic ability. When Shannon Briggs was on the way up, the boxing press in the United States were comparing him to Roy Jones Jr. They were saying, do we have a heavyweight Roy Jones Jr. here? Yes. And, back in the days, you have to understand Roy Jones Jr. was the pound for pound number one, and he was an absolute phenom. He was a freak athlete, Roy Jones in his prime. He would do things which you've never seen fighters ever do before. And they were comparing a young prospect in Shannon Briggs to Roy Jones Jr. The mainstream boxing press in the United States were doing this because he just looked so spectacular, knocking all these people out. Extremely fast combinations, punching power, explosiveness, knocking people out. It was all very impressive. Then he fought a fellow prospect who not many people had heard of and not many people held in particularly high regard. A fellow prospect called Darrell Wilson. And Darrell Wilson knocked Shannon Briggs out in, 3 or 4 rounds? Briggs came out like a bat out of hell in the first couple rounds trying to knock Darrell Wilson out. Didn't manage to do it. Wilson came back at him. Briggs crumbled. Will we see something similar with Efe Ajagba? Maybe not. Then again, maybe so. We have to wait and see. When you're dealing with a fighter who was an elite amateur, who actually was tested and came through tough tests as an amateur, you can have a bit more confidence in him because he's been in there in real fights and come through and won. But with Ajagba, yes, he's fought in the Olympics, he's fought at a high level, but I'm struggling to find evidence of him beating real high level opposition as an amateur. Maybe there is. Maybe I just haven't come across the information yet, but I'm struggling to find info on this guy being, beating real top level, high, top elite level amateurs. So I'm unsold on Ajagba yet because I need to see him in certain situations. Okay. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below about Efe Ajagba's performance against Amir Mansour. Are you sold on him already? Because a lot of people are sold on this guy already. I've seen people saying Ajagba beats Joe Joyce right now. Again, people, in the amateurs, this guy lost to people who Joe Joyce was beating. All right? You go watch the fight for yourself. You'll probably be able to find Efe Ajagba against Ivan Dichko. And let me know what you think. But yeah, so far so good as a pro. Knocked all but one opponent out. I mean, he even had... that opponent actually who he didn't knock out was Curtis Harper, who refused to actually go ahead with the fight. As soon as the bell rang, he got out the ring and walked away. And that probably, annoyed Ajagba, who wanted to keep the unbroken knockout streak going. So anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments. It's happening, I'm out. Join me on Patreon. I upload a minimum of 2 podcasts every single week, covering a wide variety of controversial topics, as well as live stream Q&A sessions. Take a look on screen right now at some of the podcasts I've produced so far. For just $3 a month, the equivalent of about £2 a month, you get access to all my new podcasts and my entire back catalogue of past podcasts, including my popular Confessions of a Nightclub Bouncer series. You can listen on your computer or on your smartphone or tablet by downloading the Patreon app from the Google Play Store or the App Store for free. The Patreon app also allows you to download each podcast in MP3. For less than the price of a cup of coffee, you get access to dozens of hours of exclusive content. It's easy to sign up, there's no contract, and you can cancel at any time. So come and join our community of free and critical thinkers by signing up with me here on Patreon today.